it's just so important, just not even for kids going through, parents who are getting divorced, just kids going through life. It's so important for them to have that adult, not necessarily a family member adult, but that adult in their life that they can turn to and give their emotions to, and have them show them their healthy habits. Because as parents, you project on your kids sometimes your unhealthy habits without even realizing it. And it's hard for a parent to be able to recognize that. It's even harder for the kid to be able to recognize that because that's all they've been taught. So if you have that outside source that's a non-family member that is an adult and understands life and understands how to grow, to be able to be there for that child, man or woman, like, it's important for both just to have that in for them to be able to grow. I got
very lucky with Davis growing up because he's a golfer, and so he was around a lot of men that were mentors, and so that was a very big blessing for me because I'm dealing with, like we were talking about, like when you're in that drama triangle or the conflict circle. As the adults, you're trying to manage life and you think you're being present. However, the children just are like circling around that with you. And the rescuer is just a different package than that avoider. It's just, you're still just going there. So it's really just learning to shift over and, like Davis was saying, have the healthy coping mechanisms, be able to, adult and just breathe.
Yeah, and something important with that too is it's not necessarily saying that the parents can't parent. It's not saying that. It's nothing against the parents and what they're doing, because I would never want to offend the parent who's raising their kid, because everyone raises their kids in their own ways. But it's to have that extra look at the situations, that extra bit of advice, because advice can't really hurt in this type of scenario. So to have another eye look at it, it's so important for the child.
Hi, I am your host, Bridgette Talley, and you are listening to Virago 24/7. Virago is Latin for female warrior, and 24/7 is for all day, every day. Virago 24/7 is a weekly podcast that brings diverse women together to talk about life and our experiences in this world. We share our views on self-love, mental health, marriage, children, friendships, and really anything that needs to be talked about. Here, you will find everyday growth, everyday healing with everyday warriors. Just give me my space to move, 'cause it's my thoughts, what I want, and I want what I want. I'm so excited to have Bridgette Morris on our show again. She hasn't been on for a while, and I've missed you.
I know, I've missed you too.
We've been texting back and forth, like trying to get you back on the schedule, and it's been, anyways, but we're finally here, and she brought 2 guests with her.
Yes.
If you don't know Bridgette Morris, go back and listen to the other shows that she's been on. But she has her own practice.
Right.
And she has a new division. Do we say division or department?
Yeah. I'm so excited. So there's just been a huge need of teens and young adults that are just struggling with things and really wanting help and guidance. And so we've added the teen and young adult life coaching for that. And so we've got Cara Doll, and she just graduated from Georgia Tech. And
welcome, Cara. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and so she's going to be really working primarily with females. Mm-hmm. And then we've got Davis Smith, and he's, board certified with Dr. Daniel Amen, does a lot of brain health, and he happens to be my son. So you have to throw that out.
Thank you.
And he has been doing life coaching, and so he's going to be handling that for us as well. So yes, I'm very excited.
That's so exciting
because there's a big need. So,
and we have my 20-year-old Kaylin. Hello. I made her come on the show with me. Say hi.
Hi, guys.
I was like, you're going to be on this show. We're talking about teens, and you just turned 20, but we introduced Cara and Davis. But just tell us a little bit why you got into this. Yeah. What is it about mental health and that you got into?
Yeah, so I think actually for me, I went to Georgia Tech majoring in psychology with the dead set vision of going to physician's assistant school. And just even with COVID and seeing a lot of my friends going through different situations, I remember going to sleep one night being like, oh, I just wish I could talk to people for the rest of my life. And then I woke up and I was like, oh, wait, I can do that. And so then just discovering the field of mental health, and have always been such an empathizer with my friends and the people I surround myself with, it just really all clicked. And then through a mutual connection, got in touch with Britt, and I mean, really just the rest is history in terms of just working together, figuring out what I want to do, and she's been a great champion and just encouraging me and my life coaching. It's not her life coaching, it's us working in tandem. Yeah. And so just having a heart for young adults and teens, and it's something I can empathize with, and I've gone through it, and so there's such a need. So I'm really excited to hit the ground running.
Awesome. Yeah, and it was great because she, has worked as a peer counselor at Georgia Tech, and so she started an Instagram feed that's, Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram.
Social media. It's Compassion with Cara, and it's just how it's beautiful. And so, and we were working with a young girl last night, that's 22. Graduated University of Georgia, really struggling, just not knowing what to do. And Cara, she's just great. Like, she does a lot of the SMART goals and just a lot of empowerment, and it's just logic. And so coming from someone that's closer to their age, which they can relate and help that. And then she's starting, you want to tell them about Lunch with Cara, which I love. This is all her. I love this.
Yeah, so it was just, honestly, through my own, struggles of being thrown out as graduating college and being like, oh, whoa, did that just really happen? Not going to school back in the fall, and just even from friends or people who have gone through kind of adjusting from postgraduate life, just really came up with the idea of bringing this group on called Lunch with Cara. So it'd be small groups, around 5 to 6 girls, women, and just a way to
young ladies,
young adults, But I just really had a heart for creating a space where women would think, oh, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who's lonely or struggling to find friends or struggling in a new job or struggling moving back home. So I'm really excited. We're trying to start that up mid-July.
Cool. That's my whole foundation of Braga was for that. So that's so cool that you're doing that. Davis.
Yes. Yeah, so my path's a little bit different than Cara's, I would say. I just kind of growing up as an only child, going through a parent's divorce, like I did in the intensity of the divorce that I experienced a lot of just kind of trauma in my own life and stuff that I can really relate with a lot of guys. And it's tougher for guys, and especially young teenager guys and like young adult guys, to kind of open up. And it's really tough because you can't really go to some of your friends, or they might feel kind of awkward going to some of their friends and not know what to say, or really be embarrassed of it. So it's really important for people at that age to kind of, especially for guys, to have someone in their life that they can turn to who either has experienced what they're going through and the trauma they're going through, or understands and can relate, and just be there for them to be able to open up and get out their feelings so they can be the best person that they can be in life. And I played golf in college, so sports was always what I wanted to do, is what I thought I was going to do. But growing up with my mom, who, as most people know, is as most people on this podcast know, that's what she does. Yeah.
I love therapy.
Yeah, she loves it. But so she really taught me a lot of tools growing up, and I kind of saw those throughout my life and through the growth of what I kind of went through, and it's kind of transferred from sports to kind of the back burner now, and I've seen this need for young guys and just men in general who need this type of help and don't realize that they even need this help.
Yeah, and he's already worked with some young men, and I've seen it, and they just get it, know. And so it makes me happy to see a difficult situation, that we went through, and that's now rippling into helping other people.
Good with it.
Yeah, so I'm proud of him. I was like, really, and so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to have Kaylin on because we've been, dealing with some anxiety and depression. So I wanted her to come on, and we can just talk and share stories. Because I mean, I've been there and I've been open about it on a few shows. And I was just telling Cara before we got on mic that I initially went in wanting to have a psychology major, and I'm so empathetic and I take on people's emotions. I'm like, I can't do this because I won't have a life because I'll just take on people's problems. And so I changed it to journalism that following year because I thought about it, I was like, yeah, that's a lot. But I love the whole psychology, helping people, talking to people. Like, I absolutely love that. And so, I mean, that's why I'm doing this, because if we talk about it and we realize, like you said, Cara, like we're not doing life alone, that's just so important to me. So I'm so happy you guys are here.
Well, and I'm so excited where we are. I know I mention this often. However, where we are in the world of counseling and psychology, and it's just the brain. Your brain, when it works right, like you work right, and we can retrain our brain. And and our brain, I always say, like, what's the most valuable thing you own? And it's your brain, and it's free. And like we can program it, and so that's really empowering. Yeah. And having the anxiety and the worry, that's there. So it's really learning, can you hold them both? Like, can you hold worry and peace of mind at the same time? And that seems kind of counterintuitive. You're like, what? However, that's really where your empowerment comes from, is being able to work through that.
Let's talk about that, because right before you walked in, Kaylin, we were talking, because she's, if you're okay with me sharing, she just got on some medication, and she's been having a hard time trying to figure out what works best for her. So I was just asking her about it.
I've always kind of wanted to go on medication just because I've always felt very unstable mentally. I feel like my feelings control me more than the other way around, So I've been dealing with mental health issues since about puberty, so like 12 years old.
Okay.
It's something that I've always struggled with. And I, with the pandemic, obviously there's been a lot of isolation, a lot of time to, be in my head and have all of that stuff just kind of run rampant. So I've been trying to actually take some steps to make myself a priority for the first time in my life, which has been great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been trying out different medications. I had a mixture that worked for a while back in January to March, and then I went off of it because of insurance issues. I had trouble getting it. So I was forced off of it for about a month, which was horrible. But I was like, I think I can, try to manage this myself. That didn't happen. So I went back on them. And I'm just now, and then they weren't really working, but also just because I wasn't going to therapy, I wasn't doing, the other stuff that I needed to in my life to, have a good outlook and a good mindset. So now I have school coming up and going back to school. So that is like the light at the end of the tunnel that I'm getting.
Yeah.
I'm getting to, hopefully less isolation. There'd be in-person classes so I can interact with people daily. And I think that'll help a lot. But yeah, I'm just kind of having that merger of, I'm finding the right medication, but I'm also, working on how do I think? Like you said, the brain is so important, and when you don't take care of it, and I'm trying to figure out, like what makes me feel good and what doesn't, and so trying to make sure I'm taking care of myself in the right way, and it's looking good. It's getting better.
Well, so one thing that she was saying that I want Britt to talk about, because I think this is not even just for young adults, it's for people in general. Like, one of the things that she says, she's like, I'm trying to change my mindset too. And that's helped me, along with the medication, see things a little differently. And right before you walked down, I was like, that's the hardest part is controlling what we're thinking about ourselves and about the world. And to me, that's been huge for my personal growth, is controlling the mind.
Yeah. Well, and I'm proud of you, like, for reaching out. Like, so that's,
thank you.
Yeah. And, yeah, so with our mind is, we are relational people, and especially with COVID, I mean, it produced a lot of sadness. So sometimes the medicine can help, however we're doing it with the tools, that's just great. And so, We'll talk about self-esteem. Self-esteem is really determined by two things. It's how I feel about me, and then how what's going on around me impacts me. And so if you're not aware of that, oftentimes you'll allow your circumstances to really dictate what you're doing. And so what we all say is, do you believe? So why we do what we do is a belief system. So I'll ask you, do you believe you can control your first thought?
The first thought?
Mm-hmm.
No, but isn't it the second thought that you can control? Yeah, like your reaction to that first thought?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And with that awareness, like, okay, I can't always control that first thought. I can't control that inner narrative. However, I can choose my second thought, and then my third thought, and then my fourth, and then here comes that first thought again, like, and then it's like the second, and then you're like, wait, and so we do this thing, it's called a catch shift. So what we're doing is we're really learning to catch that first thought, because our thoughts aren't always real, it's our perception, it's like and then I can shift it and say, okay, what is really going on here? And so if you haven't learned this, you have to retrain your brain. And so a very small portion of our brain works in the present time. The majority of it's down in that subconscious. So you go to what you know. So if you're not aware of that, it's like, okay, well, how do I change, right? So we have this thing that's called the snap. Do you want to talk about the snap?
Sure. So it's just like if you had a rubber or a hair tie on, just like the snapping of it going back onto your wrist. And so the snap, the S, it's stop. And then the N is notice your first thought, recognize that it's uncontrollable. And then the N.
And I love what you always say, and have compassion for that uncontrollable thought. Like, the snap's not to beat you up. It's just that mindfulness,
it's going to come.
Oh, wait, I'm worrying. I feel lonely. I feel like I'm going to fail this test. So that compassion. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so no, you're good. So notice it and have compassion for it and say, okay, I see you, I hear what you're saying. And then for the N, or wait.
Yeah, okay. Then the A.
Yeah, sorry. I can't spell. And I went to Georgia Tech, I'm just kidding. So for
I went to Georgia and I can.
Okay.
Me too.
And then for the A, ask yourself why you're entertaining this thought. So why are you listening to it? Why you hear it and you're believing it? Why?
And that's my favorite, because if you think about that, why would you be entertaining a thought of self-doubt?
That kind of brings up something I was thinking about yesterday when I was driving. I was just like, I don't know, you get caught up on the little things, like how much gas you have, and I'm just staring at it the entire time, and I'm like, thank you for worrying about my safety. I appreciate that you want to keep me safe, but that's, doing more harm than good at this point. Yeah. So, enjoy the drive, just let it go, because there's no need to worry about things. And then when your mind me in particular, when I feel like my mind doesn't have something to worry about, I find something to worry about. And
this is all for when you get stuck. If you're just getting stuck in this oh my gosh, how much gas do I have left? And can I make it home? And
every single time.
Yeah, right. And I'm going to double click. So double click me. Do you know what? Do you know what the double click is?
This is a test.
Do you know what the double click is?
The whole time you've been on my show, you haven't talked about the double click.
Oh, I haven't?
No, I don't
explained
think
it better.
So, okay, the double click is, so I got this from a friend of mine. So he was like, he would always go, let's double click on that. So it's, if you're on your computer and you highlight something and you double click, it'll tell you what the definition is. So you're going a little deeper. So I know we were telling you what the snap stood for, how we're going to pause and let's just double click on that. Ask why you're even entertaining that thought, because this to me is key. And Davis, maybe we can talk through this a little bit, is, really where that self-doubt comes in is how you handle conflict, how you handle life's challenges, how you handle issues. And if you're not aware of your unhealthy way, then you're going to keep showing, because you go to what you know. And so by really, realizing how you fight I know that sounds odd. It's like, what? A fight? But it's like, how do I fight with the difficulties? How do I fight with that noise? We can learn to fight well. However, you have to identify your unhealthy fight language. So you want to talk a little bit, Davis?
And usually like staying in that moment, I mean, it's usually the stuff that you can't control that gets your mind so boggled and so in disarray, because you look at something in your life that's uncontrollable and you take that anxiety and all of that pressure and you put it on something that you can control, and you take all of your anger and your whatever it is that's in your mind out on the stuff you can control, which could be someone closest to you, like a family member or like a significant other, and then it could ruin that relationship and falling of it just through what's going on with something else you can't even control, which is crazy about that.
Yes. So that's one of the things for he and I that I realized. So in my family of origin, like we lived in what the Cartman calls it's the drama triangle, which you have a rescuer, you have that victim, and you have the persecutor. We talk about it in our at Healing Life Institute as the conflict circle, because we also think there's that avoider. So it's when life just gets really heavy, like out of control, like, finals and, prom or like whatever's, then the bills are due, like whatever's going on, you'll show up in an unhealthy way if that was modeled to you. So I would show up as a rescuer. And Davis's father, was more the avoider, the persecutor. And so we're spinning in the cycle I'm rescuing, and that's a good thing. No. It's like, no, I didn't realize that. So if you can figure out who you are in that unhealthy role, then you can shift it. Because what's the opposite of being the rescuer, the persecutor, or the avoider? It's learning to be a self-champion. It's learning to be able to be like, okay, it's present time. I can breathe. I can ask myself, why am I entertaining self-doubt? Why am I entertaining the fact that I'm going to run in and like, no, I'll come. Why am I feeling guilty by saying no, that I can't, come to the PTA meeting or what? Because I'm showing up in the trauma triangle or the conflict circle. So then that's, okay, can I shift that? And can I say, well, I'm going to be a self-champion and not carry the guilt? And so that helped Davis and I, because I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think too, society kind of gives us this sort of look on guys and girls that like guys typically don't show up with emotions and feelings, so they're going to avoid more typically. And it's more like, oh yeah, like guys aren't supposed to cry, all that type of stuff. So then you see females more coming in as rescuers in those type of situations, kind of that mom role, for instance. Like, so you see that dynamic go hand in hand very easily, and it kind of derives straight from society giving us these gender-based like roles or what we're supposed to be as men and women.
Yeah.
Right, like how we should act, and even religion can do that, and so, like there's so many, we hate, shoulds are huge automatic negative thoughts that we like to say, well, we could or we could not, it's that choice.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask you, because I told Kaylin, I'm like, be honest, like you're not going to hurt my feelings, because I know, because I had her at such a young age. I had her at 21, and I'm just now figuring my own stuff out, and I'm 41, so I know she's the oldest, and then I'm the oldest, and I know the pressures that like the older child gets put on them, like higher expectations. You're so mature, so you can figure it out, you can handle it, and I feel like that's I feel like I did that with her. I got married at 25. And so she was always so mature. Like her and I would have full blown conversations at 2 years old. She's like, she's like my little pal. And, when I was doing this, she would, 3 years old, crawl in my lap and say, it's okay, Mommy. So she's always been so like mature. Right. And so when you're so mature, and I get it, because I was that myself. Right. People just expect that you just can figure it out. And so I feel like I passed that on to her, not really knowing that I was doing that. And I know that causes so much anxiety. And when I say I speak from experience, I try to tell her, and she doesn't understand that I get it. And now that I'm learning these things, I'm doing differently with my other two kids. and I'm trying to help her at the same time, but it's hard when they get older to parent differently, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure that out, how to help her through it. But then realizing, like, you're a young adult now, and I can't tell you how to be or what to do, or I can only be here and guide you. So that's, I think, where we are right now. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. Yeah, I always say I'm the experiment child because I am. Yeah, I can't. I never told you this, but I can't listen to this podcast. It's really triggering because, you know, you'll have conversations about mental health and, you know, you'll be like, oh, what you just said, it's like, oh, I experienced this in my childhood. And like, you know, if you experienced that in your childhood, why do you treat me that exact same way?
Yeah. Because I didn't know any better until now. And so now I'm acknowledging it.
Yeah.
And understanding that things were different with you, for sure. Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at. I feel like that kind of sums up our relationship right now, because I'm realizing, you know, you're very much a human being, which, you know, nothing wrong with that. But I feel like growing up, we were very close, and we still are. And I feel like for a while, you're kind of just my only support system, because I feel like I was a very lonely kid. And I didn't get that support system from friends, so it was just, you know, me and my mom. And I kind of put you on that pedestal where it's like, okay, you're the person I'm going to go to. But when I'm kind of expected to, you know, be mature and deal with things on my own, when that's expected from you, from like your parent, then you just kind of are doing things by yourself, and you're dealing with things by yourself. So that's my I'm always just like, my parents, wonderful parents, like no complaints. It's just, I feel like the biggest part of my mental health kind of is the one thing that I had to do by myself, and I couldn't do that until, you know, now that I'm not a child anymore. I'm still doing it kind of by myself, but I now have the tools to give it to myself, where before, you know, obviously I couldn't do that.
Yeah. Well, and I know you mentioned, you know, it started around 12, and I think you had mentioned to your therapist that around that time you had a really good friend of yours in 6th grade passed away. Yeah. She had a lot of illnesses, and then my dad passed away. And a lot of my freaking issues are because of that part of my family, my dad, my stepmom. I was lost. I don't even remember those next 2 years, so I feel like I didn't give her the support at such a young age because I was dealing with my stuff. So it's like I'm the parent, but in times of emotions, I feel like I haven't nurtured that because we're going through the same thing, and I'm only focused on me and my feelings and forgetting, like, oh my gosh, what about her and like what she's dealing with at that time, because she was really close to my dad too. So we just kind of dealt with it by ourselves.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Like you said, you were definitely going through your own thing, and I do realize that, which is why it's hard, because you can't blame anybody for these kinds of
Well,
situations.
as the parent, I should have known better,
No,
but
you lost your dad. Like, I get that. That's hard. I don't even blame you for that. But yeah, that is one of the biggest things that I'm like still kind of getting over, because I haven't seen my biological father since I was like 6 years old, so I was dealing with that. And then I lost my friend at 11, and then I lost my grandfather the same year. So I was dealing with like death for the first time and grief, and I didn't know how to do that.
And I didn't know how to show you.
Yeah.
Which is okay, and people don't realize that. It's okay to not know how to handle stuff. It's okay. Yeah. We're human beings. Like
100%.
It's
like,
tough.
You can't even be mad at that because you're just dealing with life, man. It's just life.
And does it make any sense? This isn't a justification, however, that, you know, so Lynette, 'cause I know for me, at times that was what was happening with Davis. Like, I thought I was there. However, I had been taught to show up in that, you know, the conflict circle and the drama triangle. So we're not really being there and we're not aware of it. So knowing that she was taught, like, if you could do it differently, what would you do differently?
I think I tell everyone, so he died like the end of 2013. I don't remember 2014 at all. Like, I don't remember what we did. It was just.
Can I say something? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't think, no offense, I don't think it's a very fair question to say what would you do differently, unless it was to be
well, I know what I would do differently.
Yeah,
I think I would have engaged more. Yeah. I checked out completely.
But, like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the things with the past, it's like, I don't like to, because I feel like that's always my mindset. Like, you know,
right.
Like, what went wrong and, like, what could have happened differently. But it happened the way it happened.
I'm so happy you found Virago 24/7. If you love this podcast, please go to wherever you're listening and rate the show. 5 stars would be very much appreciated. I wouldn't mind a review as well. And also, don't forget to share this podcast with your friends. Today's show is sponsored by the Healing Life Institute, where they're passionate about your personal growth and healing. They offer support and guidance to help you discover your inner strength and move into a more authentic and vibrant way of living. Go to healinglifeinstitute.org and enter promo code Virago10 for 10% off services.
Right, no. And I agree with you with that. And the reason why I go there is really with restoration of relationships, because you're repairing trust. Yeah. So when, especially a parent, can take accountability, because we're the parent, to be able to say, if I had these tools today, like, I was showing up. So, like, I've said this to Dave, it's like, I didn't realize I was showing, like, do you see this drama triangle? And I didn't say what his father was. I said, this is how I'm showing up. And I didn't say, this is how you're, I just said, do you see this? And he's like, I do. And I said, can we work together to be self-champions where I'm showing up, and it's probably going to be sloppy because this is a new way that I'm learning to deal with conflict and issues that seems foreign. And however, does that help a little bit more? Well, thank you for, I'm glad you clarified that. Yes. No.
But I think that is a fair question. I understand.
I understand your perspective.
I think if parents acknowledge things sooner, healing would start so much faster. And I think with me, I've had one of my parents really acknowledge some things, and so we have the best relationship because they have acknowledged it. Yeah. And then my other parents didn't really, it was just kind of like, get over it. That you can't get over it when someone's not acknowledging something or thinking that they did anything wrong. So I think it's fair. I would change a lot of things. I think talking to her more around that time, maybe getting her some therapy, would have been super helpful, and learning, like, how to talk about death. I didn't even look into any of that. I was just, like, in a dark hole. Yeah. So, and then when I wasn't, it was more about, like, me changing and my transformation.
Right.
I was more focused on that. So.
Therapy would have helped.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it would help for both of us, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but in my culture, I'm Hispanic, and that's not a thing.
Yeah.
We don't. They just don't believe in that stuff. They don't believe in therapy. What's the point? It's in the past. There's nothing, like, that's the mentality. That's the stuff that is put on you in different cultures.
Yes.
So you just tough it up, and you stay strong, and life happens, and life is shitty, but look at me, I survived. And so it's like, okay, well, they survived.
Yeah.
So it's like, and so that's what you kind of trickle down to your children. And that's what I did with Kaylin for the longest, where now I'm like, I'm learning to do differently. So yeah.
And you see that so much from past generations and past cultures. That's such the narrative that they have, and the narrative that I like to teach, and what I always say to everyone is, it's okay to not be okay. Like that's it's such a simple sentence, but it has so much meaning behind it, and it's so hard for so many people to wrap their head around, and accepting the fact that there's something like that you need help with is so hard for so many people, and it's such a big part of the healing process, and it's one of the most important parts of the healing process.
And I feel like I grew up in such a performance-based house of like, oh, you gotta be okay, you gotta tough it out, like this hits, gymnastics is hard, nope, you keep pushing, and there was no pause. It was just go, 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 and that's just so much of how our culture is. It's just never stop, and you don't learn how to pause. You don't learn how to pause and check in on yourself, because your parents are over here pushing, and as a child, you're just like, all right, I guess I'll just keep going and ignore the sadness, anger, fear that I'm feeling and just shove it down.
Yeah, and I think that's why this past year through the pandemic, I think that's why we've seen so many problems, because we were forced to pause. We were forced to stop. And I mean, we've seen so many, it's so hard to be going through school right now, just with the whole online and whatnot. There's so many different cases of people with anxiety and different stuff like that, I mean, people were forced to pause for almost a whole year, basically. I mean, it's had a huge impact on everyone.
I feel that.
Yeah, that's what.
For a while, that was like the toughest part of the beginning of it, because I was like, I don't know how to rest. Like straight up, I was just like, how do I do that? And so that's been the biggest part of like that's what made me kind of put myself as a priority, because I was like, I need to take rest, or else I'm going to keep having like burnout and breakdowns, and you know, I have all this time, but I'm still pushing myself to work to the max for no reason.
And that's so true. We had that conversation. She was just, and I'm like, this is a good time just to be still, and she just didn't know. She's like, I need to get internships, and I need to do this, and I'm like, but no one's making you do those things. No, we're not telling you need a job or you need these things to keep busy. But she was putting it on herself, and I'm like, well, what do I, like as a parent, I'm like, how do I stop her? She's 18, 19, 20 years old.
That's just how I've always operated, though. I'm like, was like I was still in school mindset, because I had just gotten out of high school, and like that was kind of like my high school overachiever personality. Like I have to take the top classes, and I always have to like do the best and be the best, and like it's just been so hard to get out of that mindset.
That's exactly how I was in high school. I mean, I did all the things, and I remember getting to the end of high school and be like, well, I mean, I'm at Georgia Tech, awesome, but like, what was the rest of that for? I can't tell you why I did Beta Club, like, it's just like, I can't give you a reason of why I was super passionate about Beta Club, but I did it. And so it's just this, like, we're pushed to like keep going and stack on it. If you can handle more, take one more thing, and it's hard to step back and take yourself out of that.
Well, and that's the perspective that I also, when we talk about that cat shift, is, our world teaches us that we're human doings. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Instead of just, like, be a human being and just live. And it's like, all we can control is the moment. Yeah. However, that's not, especially you guys with, there's a lot of that. Social media, like there's just a lot on y'all. A lot. Yeah,
and it's tougher for kind of parents to understand that in a sense. So I can understand, I feel for the people my age, the young adults and the kids, because I mean, we're growing up in a completely different time than what our parents did. And for them to be able to sympathize with us is really tough. And you have to look for other people your age who are going through it with you as well to be able to help you out, because your moms and dads, they haven't gone through the social media era that we've gone through. They didn't go through a pandemic like we just went through. They haven't ever had to deal with online classes and all of that aspect where you could just click mute and just sit there and lay in bed and have your classes go on. Like, I mean, the temptation with that is so big. Like, I mean,
the amount of times I woke up to my class being over.
I mean, it's a completely different world that we're having to go through, and it's completely different challenges that kids my age and younger are having to deal with.
And I think we're all kind of getting aware that, like, we do have that unique experience and that we have to support each other, because that's where me and my friends are at right now. It's like, no one understands but us, so we have to be there for each other. And I feel like that's built a lot of trust, and kind of shows you, like, you know, it gives us, like, a new way to find a support system in each other.
Yeah.
Well, I keep telling Kaylin, like, I know, I think every generation thinks their generation's the toughest. So I really do think that. But I think it's all the same feelings. It's like different scenarios, but the same feeling that you have on the inside. I love that you young people are talking about your feelings the way you are. Yeah. It's so important that you're doing it now, not when you're like 40-something years old like me, trying to figure crap out. Like, this is a healthy way of approaching conflict and relationships and stuff. So I'm so proud of the young kids. Well, you guys aren't kids, but young adults that are actually looking inward. And I tell Kaylin, I'm like, I know this is so tough, but you're going to be so happy 20 years from now that you've done the work now and let go of whatever needs to be let go of so that you can have a healthy future.
Yeah, well, and the significance of that is that Erik Erikson, he was around Sigmund Freud, and he was famous in the sense that he says that we grow mentally and emotionally. We have different stages of development. There's 8. So just like physically we grow, you have to learn to like roll over, crawl, walk, and then run. Well, you have to hit these milestones. And so there's an unhealthy way to learn and a healthy way. And you hit 5 of those 8 before the age 18. As we're growing mentally and emotionally up until 18, birth to 18, there's a question everyone is asking. What question do you think you're learning?
I don't know. For a while, I feel like I've always been kind of a self-aware person, just because I've always been very introspective and like, what am I thinking? Like, how does my, you know, how do I work? I've been always trying to like understand myself. So I don't know if I had to boil it down to a question. It's like, why am I like this?
Yeah. Well, that's it in a different form. So it's, who am I?
Yes.
Yeah, just who am I? And so you either learn 12 to 18, you either learn this role confusion or intrinsic value. So I'm a unique, integrated person. You know, this is who I am, and I can show up, I can trust life, and I can celebrate life, versus over here managing it and trying to fit in and being checked off and all of that. And so if you show up identifying, you know, as that rescuer, as the beta club, or, you know, if that's your identity, I'm not saying
Beta club is not my identity.
you know, or if that's your identity, or if you think like, well, I should be mayor, or whatever that identity, whatever it's not going to serve you. You're going to get stunted emotionally. And so the significance is then going to 18 to 40. That's another big chunk. Isn't that crazy? Like, you learn all of this, and then there's just one 18 to 40, and it's, how do I belong and fit in the world and love? So if I learn this intrinsic value, I can trust, self-control and that confidence, then you're going to end up getting love and have real intimate, caring relationships. And if not, you end up isolated. And so then you go to 40 to 60, which that's the midlife crisis that you guys hear, right?
The fancy sports car.
Exactly, right. And so then you go back to self-growth. So that's where I take most of my clients, is back to birth to 18, because you have to really get clear as to who you are and understand, like, okay, I used to believe rescuing, or I used to believe this, and now I'm choosing to see myself in a different lens or light. So that's why it's great that you guys are learning this now. I'm like, they need to teach this in school. Like, they teach us like 1 + 1 is 2. Like, they don't teach us how to handle life challenges, identity, and does that make sense? Yeah.
I don't even think I'm scared of them in like midlife crisis at this point. I'm like, it sounds very similar to just everything that's happening.
Well, I think that happens when someone hasn't figured their stuff out.
Yeah,
Then it's kind of, they revert back to being like little children.
I see something shiny.
Yeah.
I like it. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Or for that midlife crisis, maybe they had a kind of a chaotic childhood and they're looking for something to fill that void that they didn't get in their childhood. I mean, that's one of the big parts of the midlife crisis scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think what's so interesting is that's how, like, say my dad is, has unhealthy behaviors and XYZ. And so with the family of origin, that's going to get passed down to me. And it's not his fault. It's how he was parented, how he was raised. And so you just, I worked, I survived. That's how I'm going to parent. That's what I know. That's the subconscious. And then it's, I feel like as you grow and go through circumstances, that no longer works. That no longer serves me. And so how do you kind of stop the wheel and exit and say, I'm no longer going to act that way.
Right. Well, and that's the self-awareness and the snap. And I think that's for Lynette. Like, I love you're doing the show because we're trying to help you guys to be better than us and do it differently. And then that just ripples down to your grandchildren. And I'm so big on this. I know, Lynette, you know this is, we're just talking behavior. That's why I asked your mom about, like, it's like what behavior choices, because that's really when you can just say, like, oh, I do this instead of this. That's what we're trying to hopefully, it's like, we modeled this, so how we're moving forward to try to model this, right?
Yeah. I feel like my mom said earlier, is that you do have that history of, like, not taking mental health seriously in the family. So just because of the culture. So I feel like I'm very aware of that there are generational things being passed down, and I'm very, like, want to take that responsibility. Like, I don't want to pass this further because, I see where the whole lineage, and then I see myself as kind of the start of the future. So I don't want to continue, like, a lot of these bad habits.
Yeah. No, I love that perspective. Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to say, that's a great perspective. And that's why I'm so proud that you're doing it at this age, because another reason for doing the podcast, there's a lot of us in our 40s that are just now trying to figure it out. And it's important to talk about it because we want to do differently for our children. We don't want to keep saying, oh, well, this is how we grew up, or this is how it was done with us, so we're going to do it. We don't, I don't want to continue that pattern in our family, and to see other kids, and other people's families going through that same thing where they're just, being raised the same way the parents were raised. So I think also this podcast is to reach out to the people our age,
right.
40s and 50s that are still raising their young kids. And
well, exactly. Yeah. Well, and that's the workbooks and the material and all that Davis and Cara are giving to the young teens, and is this material, which I think will benefit the parents as well, because it's just doing that whole.
Yeah, and I think it's so important once the parent recognizes that, and like what you've been able to recognize, that you're saying now that you, like in your 40s, you just now recognize. I think it's important for them to then realize and go back with their child and go through something and kind of like mend those bridges. And not saying like it could even be something very simple. You could have a great relationship with your child even, but it's still important that you guys understand, well, this was unhealthy, this was healthy, and I want you with your family moving forward to understand that, so you can learn from how we didn't work or what didn't work with us. And it can be something very simple, or it could even be something where it's parent and child who don't even speak with each other.
And that's why I feel like with teens and young adults, we're really emphasizing, double clicking on on identity. Really just like putting emphasis on identity and who you are. Because it's, as I feel like growing up and becoming an older teen and young adult, you do step into ownership and, being able to, I feel like there's this weird confusion place of like, oh, do I have permission to do that? Yeah. Like, do I have to ask my mom if I can go over to my friend's house? Like, no, like, and it's discovering who you are and being able to even interact with your parents, being like, this is who I am and I have permission to stand my ground in this and set boundaries. And that's a really hard thing with a parent who you've grown up with, and almost having to retract back even and saying, we used to do things like this, but now I'm growing and learning.
Right.
Yeah. But for some reason, while she was talking, I was just thinking about, I'm going to say something really nerdy, but I've been reading about the Renaissance and how that kind of spread of ideas. And I was thinking about social media, and I was, because, this is a time, we're at this age where, you figure out who you are, and that's not anything new. But what is new is that we have social media and that we can spread that information so quickly, just kind of, I don't know, it just seems like it's like this generation's printing press. Like you can spread, you can spread ideas just so much more quickly and get it to people. And like, it's just kind of really cool how that a movement kind of grew from that. Even though, a lot of bad things with social media, obviously mental health wise, but I don't think a lot of this would be happening if it wasn't for that, people using that as a tool.
No, I love that, because one of the things that gets people stuck in identity and the victimhood and real is group thinking. Group thinking is like my least favorite thing, because I'm like, everyone has a voice, everyone has value, everyone matters. I think showing people grace is loving with understanding, not judgment, and really being able to let someone have their opinion. And so, like you were saying, it's social media. It's hard to get into that group thinking with the social media because they're all about authenticity, and they're going to call you out and I love that.
Yeah.
That's what you were trying to emphasize? Yeah. No, I love that, and I love you tying it with the Renaissance. Yeah, we need to hang. Davis knows this all too well.
Yeah. If my mom could live in any other era, she would live in any other era. She hates technology.
I do too. I relate to that.
I know. Well, and my car is from 2002, and Davis is like, And Davis is like, you have this because there's no technology. I'm like, I know how to turn it on.
One of the main reasons you get people go to buy a new car, they want the nice technology on the car. One of the main reasons why she has an older car is because it doesn't have the technology in it. Because she will get confused.
I get so confused. I'm like, wait, is the car engine off or not?
Yeah. I'll get in debates with my boyfriend because he's very technology oriented and like, this is the way of the future. I'm like, this is scary and it doesn't like me and I don't like it.
I know Kaylin is like, I've always said she's like a old soul because she's very into the earth and the feelings and the trees and the stars and the moon and the sky. Like she's all about that. So I love it.
I'm very history oriented, if you can't tell. I feel like that kind of shapes a lot of like how I approach life. Everybody has been the same throughout history. Like, just there hasn't been a feeling that hasn't been felt, and we all feel the same things. And I just think it's really cool.
Yeah.
No, I love that, and I say that a lot. It's like when I start to talk about it, and I'm like, it's just the same thing going over and over, and it's how do you pause long enough just to, like I said, be that living in the moment.
I didn't realize I was going to get so emotional. I'm still in my head about it because I get so emotional when it comes to stuff like this. And, I think as adults, we forget. We forget how it was to be younger. We forget how it was, to feel certain things. And, sometimes our children need to hear that we hear them, that we get it, that we're sorry, that if we could do things differently, we would.
Right.
And like you said, you can't go back to the past, but we can start now and do things differently.
Changing behavior. Mm-hmm. Well, and tears are healing, and Cara has the great saying. What do you say? I love this.
So I don't know if you've heard of like hurting people hurt people, which is so true. You find out later they've been going through something. It's like, that makes sense. And going even back to someone's trying to control something that they can and bringing that anxiety into the space, but flipping that and kind of thought of this heal people. So when you step into healing, when you step into vulnerability, that gives the other person the permission to do the same.
Not pretty.
I love that.
I know. Yeah, they both have so much wisdom. I feel very blessed to have them.
Mm-hmm.
a part of Healing Life
Yeah,
Institute.
no, that's so beautiful. So, Healing Life Institute.
Yes.
You guys are really making changes around here, and I think it's beautiful. And the people listening, hopefully they get something every time you come on. I know I do. I feel like every time you come on, I'm like, I shed 1 or 2 tears, maybe more. It's because it is cleansing to talk about things and get it out there. And I hope, Kaylin, that you can be back on and we can continue this conversation because, I just want you to be happy. Like, as parents, most parents, not all parents, but most of us, we want to see our children happy and thriving. And
I have the same goals in life. I also want to be happy and thriving. So, yeah, I appreciate that.
Any parting words, Britt? Because I know you always like to.
Well, I don't know. Davis, you go. How do you want to end?
No,
Would you like to say anything?
No, besides, thank you for having us.
Thank you, guys. I would love to have you back on. This was awesome. And I think, it's important to talk to the younger generation. And a lot of my friends, their kids are getting older. They're becoming teenagers. Some already have teenagers. So this is so important to have this conversation because, the older our kids get, it's like you switch how you relate to them, and sometimes it's like I don't even know what to do because so it's important to talk about it and share our ideas and ways of communicating with our young adults.
And I think the main thing, if you do have a child that's stepping out of the nest, if you will, like going off to college, is just be that place, just that safe place. If they just want to come, you don't even have to say anything. It's just, and they just might need to come home and just be. Yeah. It's just always just be that safe refuge because that's really what every child deserves is that one adult they can just turn to and just be you. Yeah. So that's my little
That's
parting. That's my parting.
No, I love that.
Parting advice. Yeah. Yeah, and then we never gave the P with the snap.
Oh my God.
I was wondering.
Wow.
Oh, God.
We went through all that.
That was the whole hour. That was the whole podcast.
We really triple clicked.
I am not going to edit any of this. This is brilliant.
This is absolutely brilliant. Okay, but I thought I was just wrong. I thought I just didn't know how to. I thought I missed it.
It's just snap.
There's no P.
It's the snap. It's the snap.
Before we leave, can you let the listeners know what the P stands for, Kara?
So let's just go through the whole thing again. But so the S is stop, and then the N is notice your first uncontrollable thought.
And have compassion.
For it. And then A, ask yourself why you're entertaining that thought. And then the P is, oh gosh, now I'm blanking.
Pause.
Oh yeah,
and remind
pause.
yourself that's no longer the narrative you're believing.
Yes.
P is just a pause and remind yourself that's no longer the narrative you're believing because this is today. And I talk to myself, and y'all, everyone close to me knows this. And I'm like, what's the date? It's June 17th, 2021. I used to believe that I lived in guilt, and I did of it. And today, I'm moving forward, and I'll pretend I'll do a baseball hat, and I'm taking it off. I'm taking off my jacket. I'm leaving it at the door, and I'm moving forward, staying in my swim lane. And so that's what the snap is. And so the significance of that is it's training you to live in the conscience present moment and telling that subconscious that wants to drive it, nope, I'm in control. Get out of here. And so that's the snap because it's telling your brain to, I'm in control.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Snap. Snap.
I'm glad you
The snap.
The snap.
Oh gosh.
All right, guys. Thank you
for being with us, all these women.
I know. I would love to have you guys back on. This was an awesome conversation.
yes.
Maybe next time I won't cry.
No, cheers for healing.
Cheers for healing. Yes. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for coming in.
This week's quote is, "In order to love who you are, you cannot hate the experiences that shaped you." Thank you so much for listening to Virago 24/7. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And please give us 5-star ratings. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Virago24_7 and on Facebook at Virago24/7. And just connect with us and share your story. We'd love to hear from you.